You are now listening to the Big Data Beard.
Welcome back to day 9 of the Big Data Beard road trip to Conf. My name is Kyle Prince, and with me is Brett Roberts. Brett, how are you?
Doing great.
Doing great. Awesome. Well, we are here on day 2 in Austin, Texas, more specifically Round Rock here at Dell HQ. With me is Tanuj Arcot and Scott Mosqueda. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Nailed it. Go ahead and introduce yourselves to us if you don't mind. What do you do exactly, and how long have you been at Dell?
So my name is Tanuj Arcot. I'm the lead site reliability engineer here at Dell. It's around 4 years full-time with Dell. Joined under Scott around 4 years, I would say. And predominantly I am from a software engineering background, and then moved into site reliability engineering. Prior to that, it was site experience. Predominantly taking care of availability for entire Dell ecosystem, especially Dell.com is primary focus there, and chugging along from that. That's pretty much it, and we expanded into newer, better horizons, which probably are more siloed in nature, but getting there.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in a little bit. Yeah. And Scott, what's your title?
Yes, I'm the Senior Director over Site Reliability Engineering for Dell. I've been with Dell since 2000. I had one stint away for maybe 2 years where I worked for a mobile company outside of Dell. And now I'm back for about 5 to 6 years here now. And I started in 2000 actually, and I was on the team that started launched the first dynamic Dell.com site. So with dynamic pricing, dynamic products, and things like that. Before that, it was all spidering the site in HTML. So I've been around this this monstrosity of a site for a pretty long time. So it's a good place for me to be in the site reliability team.
Yeah, so you guys sit within Dell Digital, which is kind of the team who takes care of Dell.com and making sure that we're able to get orders placed and all of that. But just how big is this business for you guys? How monstrous? How big is this monstrosity?
It's pretty significant. Let's just say that the traffic is. I would say we're probably in the top 10 websites from an e-commerce standpoint in the world, and we produce a lot of output because of that. We have a lot of businesses that do a lot of their customer-focused business through the avenues that we oversee and make sure that are reliable. And there's a lot of dollars and cents that are important to Dell's business that come through the website. On and offline, we help out with also.
So what are some of the impacts if this site is down? What happens from a revenue standpoint?
Yeah, so impacts of the site being down are measured in significant dollars. So every few minutes we're down, the heat is a little hotter, and it continues to get that way. But we have done a significant amount of work to get the wiring in place so that we could mitigate those issues much quicker. But businesses are not happy, customers are not happy, employees are not happy when we have issues with the site or anything around the site that prevents us from doing great business.
So one of the things that I would add to it is basically prior to our team joining in SRE team, right? So it was very difficult for us to basically analyze how much was the impact. So there is an outage, but we did not have a quantifiable amount saying, oh, we lost 500K or $1 million or anything. Now what we have done is started measuring, did the orders stop at a particular second or a minute? And from that point, we kind of compare it with previous days, previous months of data and say, okay, this time of the day for this hour, you should be hitting like 200 orders, but 0 orders. So we are able to quantifiably say exactly how much impact was there, there on the site.
So one thing we have to know is what we're getting to is like we have the data, and we have to know exactly what the impact was for our customers, so we can know how much emphasis to put on outages and how we can fix those things, and we tell our businesses what's going on. It's one of the things with with the digital transformation is if you have more data, you have more information, you have more knowledge, you can do more things, and you can be more correct about how you do those things too.
And that aids decision making quicker. So is it intermittent in nature or hard shutdown, like we're not even taking a single order? So that's very important to kind of add to our MIM management and kind of stuff. How serious is it, a P1 or is it a P3, or we can live with it and all that. So that determination comes from data driven by us, basically.
And I imagine that the influx of the site changes as well, so the busyness throughout the seasons. How does, Black Friday is the busiest day of the year for shopping. How does that look from your perspective on Dell.com and the site load there?
Yeah, so we have actually 2 days that are significant to us. We have Black Friday, which really starts on Thanksgiving, so that's our Thanksgiving meal. We usually eat the site being up. That's what we eat that day, and then
a victory turkey.
Victory turkey dance, and then we have the and that's not very fun to watch sometimes. And then we also have Cyber Monday. So Cyber Monday, from an online perspective, can be just as big, if not bigger, than Black Friday. But those 2 days, that weekend, actually combines for a lot of sales for our business, and a lot of happy customers because we're giving great deals during that time frame too. Yeah,
and so you've got all these disparate data sources coming in across the board for you all to try and figure out and pull together. What did that process look like of aggregating all of that to a data platform, and just how important was that for you all to have that common data platform?
Yeah, let me give you the history a little bit of that. Yeah. So 4 and 5 years ago, it's not like we didn't do Black Friday before, and we did okay in Black Friday, but what we didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. So we would have significant impact to our business, and our visibility would be very light in some places, so we couldn't tell you, or we would find out about issues much further down the line than we wanted to. I liken it to like a huge traffic jam that you would see in New York City or Bangalore or something like that. There's all this data congestion and no real way to read it or understand how it was going. So you'd have logs here, logs there, information here, databases of information there, but no correlation of that, no place where we could go and do kind of real-time queries or suggestive information that we could grab from the data. And so about 3 years ago, we got really good. Like we really got in a groove, I would say, and we were able to tell our business how they were doing, tell our IT partners how we were doing, and then I say we stair-stepped it up again about 2 years ago with some of the impact that we put into, or some of the impact we made when we were able to look at the data in a KPI-driven way too. And so before we had data, before we had logs, before we aggregated them, before we were looking at them with great real-time queries, but now we're looking at them with getting all that data together, figuring out what the right KPIs are for that data, and then making decisions based on what is the impact of this situation at this point in time too.
Yeah. So I imagine this was quite an evolutionary process for you as well, of figuring out what data to identify, grabbing the right processes from that. What would you say was the most difficult aspect of all of this? Was it a staffing shortage? Was it a process changing that? Was it technology catching up? What was
I'm going to turn it over to Tanuj in just a second, but what I would like to say about that is sometimes you need some momentum to build momentum, at times you can't maybe get the buy-in to what is the right decision to do. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we went out and did some proof of concepts, and when we showed what we were able to do, it was very obvious that the things we were doing were on the right track, and people were like, I want that, I want that, I want that. Mm-hmm. Now getting there was a quite difficult situation. I'll let Tanuj talk to that because he was right in the middle of the trenches of that.
Yeah.
Yep. So one of the key challenges were disparate data sources. So one of the things what we kind of do is also collect customer feedback. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it is a survey which pops up on the site, so where direct customers kind of give their feedback, whether their intent of coming to Dell.com was it served, or like they had difficulty in searching for the product and all that. So that data is very, very valuable for us to kind of tie into our logs and say, okay, this particular customer had this experience on the site, and we can immediately correlate with logs saying that this was a difficulty, this service took longer time for this customer, and obviously the pains of the customer focus was our primary thing. And we started measuring from the client browser how our customers see that experience altogether. So whether their pages are loading faster, the images are loading faster, is the page too long and taking a longer time on a mobile device, all those things are key areas where we want to focus and kind of go back and give a feedback to our development teams to say, hey, this is what the customers' pain points are. So getting all this data from the client browser, from the surveys, and going directly talking to databases, marry this log data which is thrown all over the place, marry it with the data which is structured in a database table, marrying them together and creating a correlation of events, what led to what, was quite powerful for us. And we continue to go into areas which is we never thought of before. Like some of the things we were more focused on the application, Dell.com, but we soon realized that it has to go much beyond our applications, going into the stack, like data centers. So data centers have much more things like storage. You have VMware. We have all these physical devices that are interconnected. So any hiccup anywhere down this chain will have an impact on our customer. So it was a key to understanding all these different data sources and mapping it together to see how we can improve the customer experience.
Yeah.
So what did you decide to use, 3 years ago when you started to go down this journey to help collect all these data sources and really do these and the analytics and the visualizations? What was that tool?
Yeah, so we turned to Splunk as our tool for a lot of the log aggregation, and then later we turned on ITSI on top of Splunk, and that ended up being a sort of a game changer for us in terms of measuring the KPIs that were there. And I don't think Tanuj talked enough about how difficult the first parts of that are, like going into and deciding what are the right measurements we should be taking, what are the right correct KPIs, what really can impact our business, our customers, and our IT staff, and see what we can do to put all that information together in a way that we did it. And we were able to do that with the tools. And I will say we are able to get and retain great talent because we give the right tooling around what they need for their jobs, right? So the frustration level is way down, and people are actually able to do what they want to do. Like, you have great people want to do great things, and so we just try to go out and enable them to do that.
That's what's really interesting about Splunk, is that it's a fun tool to work in, but then it's also very empowering for people in their day jobs, that they really get to be excited to actually work in an enterprise application, which is kind of a unique place to be.
Yes, sir.
Now, so you guys bought Splunk, partnered with Splunk, installed Splunk. What were those first kind of KPIs that you started to look at? I mean, what's the starting point for this, and then how did it grow into it?
Like any other, the first starting points was infrastructure. Okay, basic KPIs like CPU, memory, I/O, and stuff like that was the building blocks for them. But then soon we kind of started gathering data from our application logs. So that was not just from the access logs, but also event logs, custom logs from all these applications. And we have a plethora of applications customer facing, and there is a platform services which are underneath them, which range from anywhere from 100 to 150 services, which is intertwined like a mesh. Each service calling each other, and there is dependencies to other services as well as databases and all other things, basically, where data flows in. So that, I think that was one of our initial ways of getting into it, and then we started kind of creating a dependency chart or a dependency tree. And then, okay, this service, it's not just infrastructure that we need to measure. We need these KPIs for 4xx, 5xx, and application errors and warnings, and basically application crashes and all these things as additional KPIs, plus the dependencies that we have, database, be it database or like RabbitMQ or Kafka or any of other dependencies. All these things, we created a structure around it and eventually evolved from it.
So you grew a lot from having, kind of reactive analytics, understanding what it's looking at a very infrastructure layer, and then going further up in the stack is, if what I'm hearing correctly. But then you also turn it on its side and then go, let's look at it through a KPI standpoint. So what's affecting what and where? What would you say are good KPIs to start to kind of turn that viewpoint to where I can go, these are really important KPIs for us, and they seem to be very important KPIs across the board?
For applications, whether it is any technology, whether it is Linux or Windows or any other operating system, there are some base KPIs that we kind of built, which is traditionally the CPU memory and IO and all that, and swap and kind of things, which we templatized basically. Okay, irrespective of any OS, these are the on top of it, we can add some other KPIs which are specific to that particular operating system. And we're still talking about operating systems and all that, not the application itself. One of the challenges that we had was each of these applications, because they had their own logging. So the formats varied completely different from one another. No standardization. Some of these applications were legacy, were 10 years or almost some of them 12 years old. So we cannot expect them to go change the logging format, but we have to live with what we have.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, that was one of the things where we could not standardize and cannot standardize and cannot dictate at this point. But once we started showing progress, hey, if you do it, use a logging format or a logging standard that we adopt, everybody will benefit, and basically it's easier to correlate things, and traceability will be easier. But for the modern applications, we are trying to do that, but we have to still maintain the legacy, which we'll have to maintain what we have, unfortunately. But the newer ones, we are more going to standardization of logs and all that, so that we can create templates out of it. So we're not there yet completely. I don't know if legacy will always be part of our life. So you have to live with both.
And it's getting more and more fragmented now too. So we have things, in Azure Cloud or in Dell Technologies Cloud or what have you. And as we get more fragmented, things become more difficult. So getting the information to the right places at the right times and all that stuff it's the challenges everybody has in market. It's not like we're the only ones that deal with this, right? Like everybody thinks their place is really bad till they go around and look around, and then they realize that this is a really hard thing we're doing, right? Like this digital transformation is moving faster than we're capable of sometimes, and we got to catch up to places. And I think the fragmentation of logging and information is one place that we're all struggling, but we're trying to maintain and keep up with. We've got some great things in place that we're starting to do to help mitigate that. But you're relying on technologies and people that are just learning it on the edge too. So it's really important to notice that and not get frustrated by that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so what did this look like from a ingestion standpoint? Just how much data were we talking to make this thing run? Do you have specific numbers around that?
Yeah, we're under 3 terabyte for the site itself and the things around the site and some of the infrastructure, and then we have several more instances within Dell that ingest for security and other things like that. But for the site itself, we're able to get in that 2.5 range to 3, and that's kind of a sweet spot for us right now.
Yeah.
I think if I looked at us from where we were 5 years ago and I look at us now, I would say we're pretty good, right? I would say we're not great, but we're pretty good. And we want to become great. And that's why we're talking about, how do we get information from the racks? How do we know when a heat sensor is going off to say it's getting a little too warm, or when power's getting low to a rack, or when storage is starting to heat up, or we lost some of our array of abilities in some of our storage. There's so many things that we're working on. We're actually in process. We've got a great, I would say it's a view of our data center now too, and we're already starting to fill in all the pieces of the puzzle, so we'll know every rack that we have that runs our business, and we'll see all the hot spots within those racks. So this is all wired up with the information we're aggregating from the Dell racks, the VROPs, the ESX stuff, all the things that we're having. We're getting it all in there so we can see what's happening more real time than so we stay less exposed, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. Now you have to add AR to that, so you just walk down the data center and see all the different racks and all the things
right.
light up.
Yeah, and we are creating a glass table of both data centers in one screen. So,
Oh, wow.
So all in one screen, you should be able to see both the data centers that we operate on, and universal colors: red, yellow, green. Everybody understands that. So
Yeah.
dumb it down to that level.
Easy enough, right?
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, when you started 3 years ago, you're at 2.5, 3 terabytes today, but what was that ingestion like 3 years ago? Like, what's the evolution?
Like 700 gig a day type thing.
So we're seeing this, double, triple, quadruple almost at this point.
Yeah, it's about doubling every year. I think we will hit a sweet spot for the online space in about where we're at here in the next year. But there's always going to be more information, Maybe we'll start to, like you guys use the health bands of our IT guys and make sure our guys are healthy as they're working on us. But, all seriousness, things become more connected. We know more information, more data. So it's great to see.
Yeah. Now, it seems like Splunk is definitely a tier 1, tier 0 application to keep Dell.com up. What do you guys do from an architecture standpoint to ensure reliability and availability of Splunk?
That's a great question. So we made the decision early on that it would be a class 0 type application for us, class 1, class 0, which means it's readily available in both data centers that we run most of our business from, even if one goes down, because some of our tools aren't. And we find those out in the middle of outages, what's not available. Splunk's one thing that we did invest in. We have all the search heads that we need in one data center, and we're able to ingest data and look at data and run our business even if we have an outage of a complete data center. So
and
that was a key thing we decided early on.
So one of the key things is we do have remediation stuff for data centers when entire data center is brought down. So, but the way Splunk is architected in our environment is the replication happens between data centers, and with one complete data center down as well, we can operate with the full capacity. That's how we kind of envisioned it and architected, so that and I think Splunk is only one application where it is in 3 data centers. So Durham is also added so that we have the so that we maintain a captain for majority. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Keep the split brain syndrome down a bit, right?
Yeah. And we learned a lot. I mean, we have our administrators internally. Tim Packle's our main admin for Splunk, and that was a decision that was made early on, and we went with it with him, and to have that class be something that would be readily available in both data centers. It's turned out to be a really good idea.
Yeah,
for sure.
And he's absolutely wonderful too. We've had the opportunity of speaking with him a few times. So knowledgeable and willing to help in the community too.
Absolutely.
Shout out
really
to Tim.
Good.
Yeah, he's
really
great.
Good.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable about how data retention happens, cold buckets, warm buckets, all those things. He's been able to maintain it absolutely fine.
I think that's a really good example of how the partnership between the owning the infrastructure, owning the environment, and the users kind of comes together to really make a good team.
Yeah.
So Splunk has had a lot of innovation over the last couple of years, a lot of new features, some acquisitions. What are you looking at from new things coming out of Splunk that you're thinking about incorporating into your environment?
Yeah, I think we're looking more immediately at the capabilities around Phantom. We need some of those automation pieces in there to help us with with some of the gaps we have. Because when we built this thing, just think about it this way: is we really wanted when we built these glass tables to have a because we're transforming the way we do support also inside of Dell. So we really wanted our analysts, the first line of support for our applications, to be able to handle a majority of the things that could go wrong with our infrastructure and business. And so what we did is we built these glass tables so that when they drill down and they get these views, that they can actually say, hey, that service is not working, or that server is having an issue, or whatever like that. So that's helped us. And so one of the things we want to do is take that a little further. Like, what can we take out of the need of having a human intervention? So Phantom's one place we're looking to maybe fill some of those gaps. Tanuj, you want to talk about anything else?
Definitely Phantom is one of we wanted to create some run books and run with it, basically automate stuff where predominantly our support teams have been working. If there's a CPU spiking on one of them and it is sustained for like 10 minutes or so, there's a human intervention needed to go bring down, take that server out of the layer and basic health checks, and then put it back into the layer. So these are low-hanging fruit that we should be able to quickly automate. This is just a starting point, and there's ton of other automation that we are focusing on to help the business out. So there are pages out there on our site where it has incorrect pricing or incorrect content and all that. We are able to see that from Splunk, but we are not able to take action immediately. So we need a framework around it so that we can automate the heck out of it completely. So basically, and then go automate all those things so that the customer is not impacted. That's the whole motto about SRE.
And we work together with Splunk quite closely. Actually, they ask us to help try out some of their new features, functionality.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I hear you guys speak quite a bit about this as well. So we've seen some slideware from you online, but then also I hear you speak with customers as
yes.
well.
Yep. We were just in Miami last week, actually, talking to one of our customers, and more about the overall digital transformation, but you specifically around SRE, the SRE team. And the core of SRE is data, right? You have to have good data set up and data knowledge and data usage. And so we sat with them for a couple days. It was enlightening for us. We got to see some of the great stuff they're doing around, some of their cloud and things like that. And it was enlightening for them to see, how close we are getting to being real time on taking care of our customer and information that we glean from.
Yeah.
And we've had several calls with our customers. It's just the way this is a new thing. This site reliability kind of booming out and getting more important to more and more customers. So it's kind of catching fire, and people want to know how we're doing it. We're kind of a big deal in the market now.
Yeah.
So they like to see how we do it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So, what advice, if you just had to boil it down into a couple pieces of advice, would you give to other organizations out there that are looking to either go to Splunk or maybe even add features like ITSI to Splunk?
Sure, yeah. These data things like this are tools are a big deal. There's several on market. We chose Splunk because it looked like it was ahead of the market. So it's they're expensive, but they also they let your people run, basically. They don't have to crawl and walk around things. They can actually go run and do things. So enabling and making the right investment in these sorts of things really pays off in the long run for this, not just this tool, but other tools that are significant to supportability and operations of your applications and your business.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear them talk about the expensive argument where it's the more use cases that you can get out of that set of data helps that cost of Splunk, as well as the value that it brings back to your business helps as well, right? So it's just the value of it within that seems to be wonderful for customers across the globe.
Yep.
Now, are you guys going to be at Conf next week?
Yes.
We are going to be at Conf, yeah. I think Tanuj and I are doing a super session there, and then you guys are parking that RV in there. This RV.
We are. So you may have to come by and we'll.
And Scott is also on the keynote.
Oh, really?
On
Day
Wednesday, he's part
Day
of
two,
the
yeah.
keynote. Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. We'll have to
Awesome.
find you. We'll be the one wooing in the background when you're
We'll
up
have the
there.
signs.
You have the
Yeah.
generator running in the RV.
Honking the horn.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. We are going to move into a little area called rapid fire. We're going to ask you each a question. Tanuj, we'll have you go first, and then Scott finish up. How's that sound?
Sure.
Perfect.
Right.
All right. So, Tanuj, what is the most interesting thing that you have splunked?
I think fraud data.
Okay.
So
Very, very important.
By far, I think that interests me the most as well. Basically, there's online fraud in e-commerce, so
Mhm.
it's a known fact. We have to be much closer to getting to know what these guys are doing. So it's always catch up, unfortunately, because we are a large organization. We cannot just go logs, credit cards, or anything else, right? So we have to catch up, and we'd have to do more work on that. So there's a lot of work that we have been doing to identify fraudulent transactions and all that using Splunk. So we are looking at order patterns, people shipping to addresses which are fraudulent. They keep switching the email addresses. They just by a digit here and there, and they change the shipping addresses as well, and all those things. It's a constant challenge. Keeps you
Don't tell them
focused
how
on
to
it.
do it. No,
Yeah, giving away all the keys.
Let me just write this down real quick.
take some notes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Awesome. And what about you?
Yeah, I would say it's for me, it's actually what's to come, right? The information around all the racks and sensors and things like that, like all the things that you don't think are that big a deal, end up being a big deal in the middle of an incident. So knowing more about our UPSs or the power from the street or things like this, like there's so many things that'll allow us to get data here and in the future. So the things that we haven't done are more exciting to me. I
Okay.
think that we're on the path to get done.
yeah.
All right. So, Scott, other than ITSI, I'm going to throw a little curveball. Other than ITSI, what is your favorite Splunk-based app?
Splunk-based app. Well, I only use the enterprise and the ITSI, and then the Phantom piece. That looks more compelling to me than what we can see in the future. So I like the idea of what we can do with that in terms of automation of the things that we have going on. So, and then the business intelligence thing looks like it's
That's a good one.
I would
it's
say
significant for us. Yeah.
Yeah, the business flows app.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, we, myself and Swapnil basically gave a presentation on behalf of Splunk at Gartner for that. So we were beta testers for that. There's a lot of potential there for for order management and stuff like that. I think that interests me a lot as plus Phantom. And
Also, I would say, a few years ago when we talked to Splunk, we said you guys really need an APM, so the Signal FX stuff could be significant too.
significant, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
excited about
Signal
that.
FX.
Yeah. Okay, so Tanuj, what piece of technology is currently making your life worse? It could be anything, personal technology, anything out there.
Okay, worse.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting question. So one of the biggest challenges we have is legacy in our applications, right? So we have to contend with legacy applications, a constant to keep up with the new releases and all that kind of stuff. So they completely change the logging format and all those things. So that is for me the most difficult thing, or time consuming, I would say.
Okay.
To keep up with that, yeah.
Okay. Scott, what about you?
I would say my 11-year-old having a phone. I think that would be like when she disappears in her own world for hours at a time. I would mention one other thing. An honorable mention is I hate my wife's car. How I can't change who's controlling the music unless you stop on the side of the road and like.
Oh, really?
You can't do it while you're driving. Like so that's frustrating too. But
Yeah.
I'm sure I won't mention that vendor. I'm sure they'll fix that in the future.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. All right, Scott, what is your favorite Splunk T-shirt quote?
I think it's the take the out of IT was the best one. Yeah,
That is a classic.
yeah, I think that one's the best
That's
one
the
for me.
first time that's been mentioned on the show.
Yep. What about you, Tanuj?
That's the same thing.
Same thing. All right. Love it. Consensus. Tanuj, are there any shows that you're binging on right now?
I just completed one. What's that? Ryan?
Jack Ryan?
Jack Ryan.
Okay. How was
Yeah.
that?
It was really good. Looking forward for season 2.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
Scott, what about you?
You know, I'm gonna get shot for this one probably, but I like that Masked Singer thing that they have going on. It's pretty funny to watch that. Have you seen that?
I saw the
just
first
showed
one.
up in Australia, and one of the judges is Lindsay Lohan, and she's judging Australian celebrities. And it's just kind of like, what sort of subject matter expert are you on
Yeah, I was
Australian
gonna say,
celebrities?
I'll hold my comments on that one.
Anyway,
But
so-
but I do like we sit around and watch Friends. My 11-year-old loves that, so we'll watch hours and hours of Friends. It's every day, a week. It seems like
Yeah.
it never gets off the TV too. So
Mine is Seinfeld.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best.
That's a
yeah.
great one.
So last question, Scott. What are you most looking forward to, other than sessions and stuff like that, for conf?
well, you're going to be in Las Vegas, so that's part of that thing. Is
Mhm.
having some fun with all your friends and such.
Yep.
But
Losing some money.
we're looking. I look forward to meeting some new folks around the industry. Like we said early on, there's a struggle happening out there, and people are winning it in some places and are struggling in other places. So it's really cool to hear kind of what people are up against. We get a lot of because where we come from, we get a lot of people coming up and asking how we're doing this, or how some of the questions you guys asked around getting started and KPIs, and how do you get your business sign in for this, and how'd you get funding, and all these things like this. So these are all fun things to help people with also, and you make some pretty good connections there as you do that too. So it'll be an interesting time.
What about you, Tanuj?
So one of the things I'm looking forward to is taking a look at the mobile strategy for Splunk, right? So the mobile app that or the mobile version of Splunk. We built our own mobile app.
Okay.
So I want to keenly look at the synergies between what Splunk is offering out of the box and what we custom built, which is completely powered by Splunk, by the way. Or the way it is built is it can receive data from anywhere. So
the data is powered by Splunk. It's
data
a lot
is-
more technology behind it.
data is powered by Splunk. I stand corrected there.
Yeah,
So one of the things, whatever we are doing, right? So we are taking the strategy to bring everything what you do onto the mobile. So Scott's philosophy is basically there are a set of SRE devs and basically the teams and sales teams and all the. They should be able to see everything what is happening on the environment, not just on desktop, but on the phone itself. So be it sales of our or like conversion and things, or customer satisfaction, or the VMware infrastructure, everything on the phone. So the app is going to be launched. I think very soon, maybe in 2-3 weeks, it will be in the Dell App Store.
Wow.
So that is one thing that I'm looking forward to see what Splunk is offering versus ours.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. Now, you said a lot of people like to reach out to you all and see what you're up to. A close friend of mine, Ray McIntyre, a partner salesperson in Australia, loves your talk on conf last year. Where can everybody find you online? Are you on Twitter, LinkedIn? What's the best way to get a hold of you all?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is the best way. Yeah,
Best
we're on
way.
LinkedIn, both of us.
Okay, great. Well, we'll be looking for you at conf next week. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, and we'll see you next week.
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Big Data Beard podcast.
This amazing adventure would not be possible without our incredible sponsors. We thank you, Dell Technologies, VMware, Red River Technologies, Arrow Electronics, and Converging Data for making the road trip to Splunk.conf 2019 possible.
And be sure to smash that thumbs up button so we can keep the episodes coming. Until next time, keep being awesome.